Welcome to my latest Love Ultras. I'm John Kynaston and this is episode 25. Continuing with my countdown to the Northern Traverse, it's now Sunday the 4th of February, and so this coming Saturday the 10th of February there will be 13 weeks to go. So the countdown continues. Just want to mention a few things before I talk about what I've done this week and a little book review. The first thing is that I've now booked my train and accommodation for Friday the 11th of May. The race starts at, I think it's 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock on the Saturday the 12th, so obviously I need to go down the night before. And I looked at getting the train down, and when I looked at a train from Paisley to St Bees, it was going to be £61. But the train line does a great thing where you can sign up for an alert when they're a cheaper rate. And I think it was Tuesday morning I woke up and there was an email from the train line saying that there was limited availability for cheaper trains. And I got a train for £9. So a 3.5 hour journey for £9. So I'll leave at 2 o'clock, I think it is, on the Friday afternoon, and I'll get down there for about just before 7. No, must be earlier than that. Anyway, sort of getting time for accommodation, and then I booked a room at the I forgot which is the one of the hotel which I think the briefing was there last time, but it's nearby. Anyway, so I've got my train and accommodation sorted. Just need to work out the way back. I've looked at the trains from Whitby. I'm thinking maybe Wednesday, which would give me 4 days and a bit to do the run. But at the moment it's over £109 for a single, but I'm hoping that will come down as well with the train line. The other thing I was going to mention is over the last 3 weeks, the last 3 Thursdays, Katrina and myself have had a massage from our friend Leslie McCarroll. Leslie's doing a sports massage course at the university in Glasgow and needed some volunteers, so we went along for the last 3 Thursdays, and she's done a great job giving us a massage on our legs. So thank you, Leslie, and that's made a difference to our massage, our fitness, so thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to just mention is a comment from Paul Cook. Paul left a comment on the last week's YouTube, and he talked about he was surprised that we were planning to do a 40-mile run in the build-up to the Hardmoors 55. He said he's got a little bit of injury at the moment, has not been running as much as he hoped, but he wouldn't do more than 30. And I thought I'd just answer that because I think for my feeling of building up the miles is partly physical. I think it's good to be able to do longer distance each month and build up. So the plan is for January we did a 30-mile run last week. In a couple of weeks' time we'll do a 40-mile run, and then the next 4 weeks later will be the Hardmoors 55. And so I quite like that progression, and I think I've done that ever since I started running ultras, doing the West Harlem Way in 2007. It just made sense to me to do a bigger each month. And I say partly it's physical, time on feet, and just been able to run that long. But I think also it's mental, and my reasoning was that if the longest you've done is a 30-mile run, before the race, when you get to 30 miles in the Hardmoors 55 or the Fling or whatever, then you've still got another 25 miles to do almost the same again, and mentally I think that is quite hard. Whereas if you've done a 40-mile run, then when you get to 40 miles, you know you've only got 15 to do. You can do 15 miles. And so part of my thinking was that way, really, and I'm doing it with Katrina, who's running really well. She's done several, up to, I think she's done 8 or 9 ultras by now, so she's quite experienced as well, but she hasn't done one for a few years. So I think it was partly helping Katrina prepare and say, if we've done a 30-miler, a 40-miler, when we get to the race, we'll feel confident that we can do the full distance. So that's my reasoning and thinking behind doing that. I know lots of friends would the furthest they would run in training is 30 or even less than that. But again, each to their own, and everyone prepares and runs in different ways. But certainly that's my way of doing it. I quite like to keep a stats of my monthly runs, and so January I ran 158.07 miles, which is probably less looking back over my last 10-11 years. I'm normally in January well over 200, but with the ankle and coming back I wanted to be a little bit more sensible, so I've ran 3 or 4 times a week. just been building it up and making sure things are okay with my ankle. So that's been, I think, a sensible approach for this time. And you can see from this graph that the 3 longer runs or 4 longer runs throughout the month with the spikes there, just to be able to see what I'm doing. And so trying to keep a longer run once a week with the 30 build up. February is going to be bigger. I'm planning to do more miles in February, so it'll be interesting to see what I end up in, but I would imagine it will be over 200 miles for February, because I've got some big weekends planned over the next few weeks. So this past week has been my easy week. I've had 4 weeks of ran about sort of between 35, and then with the big one was almost 50, and then I quite like to have an easy week. And so this week I just ran 3 times. I ran on Tuesday and Thursday, just an easy road run. I've got my new insoles this week, so I was quite keen just to do some easier runs to bed those in. And I must admit, they've made a difference straight away. I can feel the support around my ankle straight away, so that's been really encouraging, and I'm glad that I've got those now. And I'm really hoping that in the coming weeks it'll just get easier and easier, and then suddenly I'll realise that I've not got any pain there at all. I can still feel my ankle. It's not 100%, but it's certainly well on the way now. And then yesterday we had a run up on the Glen of Braes, and it was really nice because Katrina's running friend Tracy joined us for the run. Tracy does most of her running, pretty well all her running on the road, so she found it quite slippy and muddy up on the Braes. And Cammy, our good friend as well, he joined us. He wants to do a bit more, so he set off at 8. He did an hour run first and then joined us, and we did almost 12 miles, which was a cracking run up on the Braes. And I thought I'd just show you the route and a few photos. This is taken from Relive. It's a great little website which takes your run and makes it into a little sort of profile, and you can see where we went. So here's our run up on the Braes yesterday morning. So I hope you enjoyed that as we did. It was great to be up there. There's nice weather, say bit muddy and wet underfoot, but that's also part of the fun. For this week's episode, I wanted just to give a quick book review that I've been reading this book over the last week, and it's A Coast to Coast Walk by Wainwright, and it's basically the pictorial guide of the route that we're going to be covering on the Northern Traverse. And when I entered the race, I was attracted to it by this route. When I was a kid growing up, we used to go to the Lake District quite a bit, and my dad used to have all his books, the Western Fells and the Eastern Fells, and we used to follow the routes and do walks with those. And I knew he'd done this coast to coast, so that must have been, it was written in 1973, so I was 14 then, so it must have been out when I was a teenager. And I remember when I was 17, 18, there was a friend who was talking about doing this coast to coast walk, and we sort of got to the stage where we started thinking about dates and planning it, but it never happened for whatever reason, can't remember now. But it's always been in my mind, and when the race came up a couple of years ago and Andy Cole did it and I followed it, I was going to enter then, but again there was another race I wanted to do. But it's been something I've been looking forward to. Anyway, I bought the book, and it's been on my bookshelf for the last few months, but I thought this week I would read it now that the race is getting closer, and I'm glad I did. It's great. It's basically a pictorial guide, and there's hand-drawn maps, and I've shown a couple of examples here, and he also does some lovely drawings of different places that you'll see along the way. Now, the thing that I found really interesting about the book is all the history around it and the places that you go to. I think for the actual map, I'm not going to carry this when I run. I suppose I could photocopy some of the pages and take those with me, but the descriptions are brilliant and it shows you exactly where to go, but I'm not anticipating to need those. Could be wrong, and certainly when I do the recce's, if I have trouble, then I might sort of photocopy and take the bits which are a bit more tricky. But the thing I've really enjoyed about the book is just reading about the history of the route and the places that you go through. So when you go through a little town like Kirby Stephen, he'll tell you quite a bit about the history of it. He'll talk about different places. There's different stones that have been set up at different places, and there's all sorts of really interesting history which you wouldn't know unless you read the book or you sort of were a historian of that local area. So I've really enjoyed that, and I think what I'll plan to do is before each recce I do, I might reread the pages and the bit which I'm going to do, just again give me an idea of what's coming. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and I think that should be really good fun. So yeah, I would recommend it. I got it from Amazon, can't remember, I don't think it was that expensive, but it's a great little companion to be able to read and to find out more about the route that we're going to be following on the Northern Traverse. Okay, coming on to this week, my plan for this week is to again run Monday and Wednesday, which will be off-road runs. I think Monday I'll be able to do Pollock. I think Wednesday I've got a busier day work-wise, so I'm not quite sure when I'm going to fit that run in, but I'll certainly get a run in somewhere on Wednesday, and if it means getting up early and running before work. And then Thursday I'm going to do just an easy road run, and then Saturday Katrina and myself are going to join the Glee Club. We have a regular monthly run during this time, and this one's in the Orkill Hills near Stirling, which we've never run in before, so I'm really looking forward to that.